Good morning, everyone. Today our topic is genital tuberculosis. This is generally we are discussing pelvic infections topic, and in this genital tuberculosis is an important topic. Generally, incidence of this genital tuberculosis we can see 5 to 10% among the patients with infertility. The cases of infertility, if at all we are treating, then we can find 10% cases are almost of infertility because of genital tuberculosis. Generally, the prevalence of genital tuberculosis is much more in the patient with HIV infection. Again, gynecological patient, if at all we are seeing in the OPD, the incidence is almost 1% in the hospital practice. Again, pathogenesis, if at all we are seeing, then the causative organism we know is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. This is basically a human type Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Almost always the genital tuberculosis is secondary. Primary infection is elsewhere. Generally the common site is lung, and the secondary it may spread through lymph. The site may be bones and joints. Primary site may be bones and joints. It may be lymph nodes, or lungs are the common site. Respiratory tuberculosis is the common site for the primary site for the tuberculosis. So genital tuberculosis is always almost secondary to these primary sites. Now we will see the mode of infection. The first one is hematogenous mode. So in this mode of infection, hematogenous mode, the spread of tuberculosis is through hematogenous route, and 90% of cases where the pelvic organs are involved and the tuberculosis is in the genital organs is almost always through hematogenous route. Means in this the spread of this bacilli is through blood. Means through pelvic vessels it goes to genital organs, to the fallopian tubes, which are commonly affected with the tuberculosis. And generally, if at all the patient is in puberty, the age of puberty, then the pelvic organs are infected during at the age of puberty is common. Again, generally the infection remains dormant for the period of 4 to 6 years, and until the clinical manifestations appear. Means patient may remain asymptomatic for so much long duration until unless the clinical manifestation appears. So commonest route of transmission is hematogenous. 90% of cases of genital tuberculosis, the route of transmission, mode of transmission is hematogenous route. The second one is lymphatic or direct. The pelvic organs are involved directly with this route, or by the lymphatics from the infected organ, like lymph nodes or bowels or peritoneum. These may be affected primarily, and through lymphatics from these parts, the pelvic organs will get, genital organs will get affected. Again, the third route is ascending. Ascending means generally this is very rare, and this is not common, but it might be the route by generally it may be the STD we can call it. It may be transferred from the one partner, male partner, to the female, so that vulval or vaginal or cervical lesion might be present, and through that route the female may get this infection. So ascending infection, if at all she gets infection in vulva, vagina or cervix, it may ascend upwards to the body of the uterus and to the fallopian tubes. So ascending infection might be present. Again, this is the diagram. In this you can see the hematogenous route, that is tubercular infection is getting transmitted through blood stream. So frequency of the genital organs that are affected by tuberculosis. So commonest one is fallopian tubes. 90 to 100% of times, whenever the patient is with genital tuberculosis, fallopian tubes are very commonly affected. Then the second site is endometrium. That is 50 to 60% of cases are of endometrial tuberculosis. Then the ovarian tuberculosis, 20 to 30% of cases are of ovarian tuberculosis. Cervix, 5 to 15% times it gets affected, and vulva and vagina is very less time it is getting affected. So in frequency we are seeing the commonest site for the genital tuberculosis is fallopian tubes, then endometrium, then ovaries, then cervix, and then vulva and vagina. Now initially we can see whenever this is in fallopian tubes, we can see initially submucosal layer of ampulla is affected, and whenever it gets affected, it will either spread medially to the muscle layer, means submucosal layer of ampulla of Potter is affected, and the medially it may spread to muscle layer, and then what will happen, fibrosis will be there, segmental thickening will be there, and tobacco pouch appearance will be there. Means whenever it is spreading to the muscle layer of this fallopian tube, and what the consequence might be there, fibrosis occurs, segmental thickening will be there, and tobacco pouch appearance will be there, and this may lead to this will lead to pyosalpinx, means abscess formation will be there, and the condition is called as salpingitis ischemica nodosa. The other consequence of this tuberculosis of fallopian tubes means tubercular salpingitis you can call. So spread, it will outward spread it might be. So what will happen, the outside part of the fallopian tube will get affected, and perisalpingitis will be there. So exudation will be there, and dense adhesion with the other parts will form, and the ovaries will get affected because the tubercular infection will get transmitted to the ovaries, and tubo-ovarian mass will form. So two chances are there, two types of consequence might be there. First one, the medial spread will be there, and the muscle layer will get affected, muscle layer of fallopian tube will get affected, and fibrosis and thickening and tobacco pouch appearance will be there, and the condition will be salpingitis ischemica nodosa, and that is pyosalpinx because of tuberculosis. And spread, whenever the spread is outwards, perisalpingitis will be there, exudation will be there, and tubo-ovarian mass will get formed. This is the tobacco pouch appearance you can see in the diagram. This is the tobacco pouch appearance. So what will happen, whenever the infection will be there in the fallopian tubes, whenever these are the fallopian tubes, whenever the tubercular infection is there in the fallopian tube, there will be fibrosis at the end, fibrosis at the femoral end, and the pus will be get collected inside this fallopian tube, and this will give rise to tobacco pouch appearance. This is salpingitis ischemica nodosa, right? So this is also called as, in x-ray you can see like this. This is salpingitis ischemica nodosa, bilaterally you can see this is the affected part. So salpingitis ischemica nodosa, this is the tube getting affected, and at the femoral end, this is the tubo means salpingitis ischemica nodosa you can see, and in this diagram you can see this salpingitis ischemica nodosa, that is tobacco pouch appearance will be there, fibrosis will be there, pyosalpinx will be there, and whenever pyosalpinx, it is also called as salpingitis ischemica nodosa. Types of tubercular salpingitis, in this one is exudative, and the second one is productive. So exudative, in this this will be generally acute phase, and large pyosalpinx will be there, and frequently the organ may contain large amount of purulent exudate will be there, and it will show few adhesions will be there, and the type is we can call it as exudative. Now productive or adhesive, in this it is found, generally we can diagnose it on the laparotomy or laparoscopy, and the tubes are studied with the tubercles. Because of the tubercular bacilli, and they are very densely adherent to surrounding organs, means like ovaries, there it may be get adhesion, means synic means it may be get uh, attached to these surrounding organs, and in this the tubal wall will be get thickened and nodular, and eventually when the process of healing starts, it will result in calcification and fibrosis. So tubo-ovarian mass will get formed. This is about the tubercular sarcophagitis. In the next class, we will continue with this genital tuberculosis. For this class, if you are having any query, mention in the comment box. I will try to solve it. Thank you. Thank you very much.